really enjoy his message when I hear him share at meetings, so help me welcome Gary.
Hello everyone, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Gary. I'm certainly very pleased to be here tonight. It's honored. Thank you, Kurt, for asking me. Pulled in the driveway tonight and thought, if I get the wrong night, is somebody else going to be speaking? My intent tonight is that I want to share more message than the mess, but I'm going to qualify because I need to tell you about the mess. And I really don't know what I'm going to say other than I'm just going to let my higher power dictate where I'm going to go with this for 45 minutes. I was born came by this disease honestly. I was born into an alcoholic family. My dad was a daily drinker that drank really hard. He worked really hard. He wasn't very abusive. And when I was 18 years old, he died from this disease. He had a kidney and a liver rupture. Got sent to hospital for an ambulance and emergency surgery, and they got him all patched up. And after surgery, you have recovery when you're coming out of the anesthesia. And he got into recovery, and the DTs hit him. There was no chance. I mean, they couldn't recover from it. And he died in recovery. Ironic part is I walked in here, and I got my life back in recovery. I know. Because of the evidence of what I've seen in my own family and what I've been born with, that I'd be dead today if I kept doing what I was doing. I mean, for when he died, I said I wasn't going to be the man that he was going to be, and so being the good, not really an active alcoholic, but thinking like a good alcoholic, I decided to go on the marijuana maintenance plan. and join the Air Force, where they don't really frown on drinking much. You can get beer at 18 in the Air Force, and I was off and running. But as we all know, going on the marijuana maintenance program is like buying an upgraded ticket on the Titanic, and eventually it's going to bring us to the same place, right around the same time, and that's what it did. But I want to take a step back and tell you about something that was really important for my recovery that was in my childhood. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I want to say 5 because 5 is an important number in my recovery. My dad used to go drinking with my uncle all the time at my uncle's house or vice versa. And at that time, it was the late 50s. They didn't have pop-top cans yet. You had to open it with a church key. Some of you guys have heard this before. Sorry for the redundancy, but I was a good soldier for my dad. I always ran and got him beers and came back to the refrigerator. By the way, it was Ballantine ale, not good alcohol. Should drink its highest alcohol content as possible, I guess. So I asked my dad if I could try to open it one more time. I tried to do it time and time before, and never worked. And this time I got up on the chair, and I got leverage on that church key, and I snapped it open. And I jumped up and down, and I said, I did it, Daddy, I did it! And I was so excited. And he was sitting no farther than that chair, from my uncle, from tray to that chair. And he leaned over and whispered in my ear that he hoped someday I would be strong enough to never open one of those cans. Now, that whispered statement there was a seed planted. And I swear, I never had another conscious thought about that statement till I was about 6 weeks sober. And then I had one of the cornerstones of my sobriety came out. I'd say that was my first, brilliant miracle that happened to me. But I had other small ones along the way. I'll tell you that in a minute. So along the time between the time I was 18 and the time I was 42 and dragged my sorry butt in here, I managed to get myself court-martialed in the Air Force and got out with an honorable discharge, but not until they busted the jail 10 days before I got 60 days and just a lockdown. And they busted the jail like 2 days before I was supposed to get out, and they got quite a bit of stuff that was in there. It was kind of an amazing thing. But figure you got a bunch of druggies and alcoholics together with a lot of time on their hands, they're going to start conspiring to do stuff. That's just the way we are. So I got home from the service and went about doing some things, and a few years later I got married and started to raise a family and kind of backed off of the pot smoking scene. I was drinking the whole time, but I kind of got off of that because I had to be respectable because I have kids now, and alcohol is legal to acquire, and so I thought, well, it's kind of what I'm going to do. So I started to change my modality a little bit, and over the next 15 years, beer was my drink of that, what you could see me drink, and vodka was the thing I drank behind the scenes. My wife at the time was always amazed about how lit I could get on just one beer. One day my son discovered in my office I had a trash barrel, and it had some baseball trading card wrappers on top of it, because I was doing that with my son, who was like 15 or 16 at the time. And he went digging through there looking for something, and under a thin layer of baseball wrappers was this much in a trash can filled with empty nip bottles. And somehow I managed to explain my way out of that. That was really a year's collection. It was probably a month's worth of coming home. Anyway, it's amazing how innovative an alcoholic can be, and the way that we get ourselves out of things, and the way that we simply ignore roadmaps. That was a big roadmap for me, and it was years before I actually came into my first meeting. But probably from the time I was 27 to 42, I guesstimate about 15 years, I was in denial. I mean, I was having conscious thoughts that, hey, I'm doing the same thing my dad did. I got bottles hidden all over the place, and I'm thinking about I'm taking inventory when I'm driving to work. Do I need to stop at the package store? And what package store do I stop at tonight? Because I don't want to stop at the one I stopped at last night, and I don't want to stop at the one I stopped at 2 nights ago. Of course, they probably all knew as soon as I pulled into the parking lot. And they said, "Well, watch this 6-pack of talls and a 5th of vodka," because that's what I would get every time. So I was just really feeling the guilt for 15 years that I was doing what I didn't want to do. I was doing what I said I wouldn't do when I buried my dad. And I didn't know how to get out of it. I remember my mother was nagging him. He was a 2-pack-a-day smoker, Camel. And he quit cold turkey. Just quit. And she was nagging him about, if you gave up the cigarettes, why don't you try that AA thing? Because then it was relatively new. Just 20 years young or so, but it never took. But I crawled in here. I got up one Monday morning after a weekend of drinking, and it was during football season. because I drank whether they won or lost, or whether they were rained out, or whether they weren't even playing. I would just, I didn't need a reason to drink other than the fact that it was there. So, and I made sure it was there. But I got up one Monday morning and I looked at my father's face in the mirror for the last time. And I said, I'm going to do something about this. And I looked in the yellow pages or the white pages and called up Central Service in Boston, and they said, here's 4 meetings you can go to. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By the time Thursday gets there, the book will be with you, and there's going to be lots of meetings for you to go to. So I went to my first meeting on a Monday night. I must have been open-minded, because I heard something there that I still remember to this day. Someone said, if you're not praying, you're not staying. And I had been raised with a religious, spiritual belief system. I considered even going to the seminary when I was a junior in high school. And then I started drinking a little bit, and that kind of went out the window. So I felt pretty comfortable being at my first meeting and doing the Lord's Prayer, and I kind of felt like I was at home, having never been there before. I didn't really know a lot of people in the room. I think one person I knew only casually. But I felt, strangely enough, at home. I felt at ease. I felt like, there had been a weight lifted. So the second, I left that meeting and I drove home. And I was excited about the fact that I felt like I was a member. Nobody gave me a badge or anything. I got my one-day chip. So I got something. And the message. And I drove home and I was excited. My wife wanted to know how it went. And I said, I felt very much at home. This, I've got to go back again. I think I'm an alcoholic. She said, shh, don't say that. Of course, she was, she complained to me about what my drinking was about, but I couldn't possibly be an alcoholic. During my first year of sobriety, she told me no less than 12 times in 12 months that she liked me better when I was drinking. You know that old country western song, I sobered up and you sobered up as I started drinking. You ain't much fun since you stopped drinking. Well, maybe I wasn't that much fun anymore for her, but it was an interesting first year that I made it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. On the second night, I went to this meeting. I only knew of one meeting in the town, and there were plenty of other meetings, as I found out when I got the book, but I only knew of this one meeting, and I got there, and I knew where the address was, and there weren't any lights on. And I was there at 10 minutes to 7. It was a 7 o'clock meeting, and I waited, and no lights. Nobody came. And I got out of the car at 5 minutes past 7, and I started walking around the building, like somehow the sobriety was in the building. And all I needed to do was get in there. And I was checking doors. It's a good thing a cop didn't come along, because I probably would have got busted for attempted B&E or something. They probably wouldn't have believed it. Sure, you're on your second day of sobriety. So that is what I consider to be the first miracle in my young sobriety. And I consider it a miracle because I had to drive by 3 package stores that I frequented in order to get from there to my house. And I did it. I was determined to get to the meeting now on Wednesday. I went to a meeting Wednesday, the book came on Thursday. I went to a meeting on Thursday of my first week. And I got another little miracle. When a guy named John came up to me at the break, it was an hour and a half meeting, and they broke, it was, heavy smoking thing. So everyone had to go out and have a cigarette. So they always broke. And at the break, this guy John came up to me and he said, "You're new, huh?" And I was not taken back a little bit, but I've got the N on my forehead for newbie. And I said, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "Just keep coming till the miracle happens." And that's pretty much all he said. And he walked away. And I remembered that. And so it gave me a little bit of stick-to-itiveness. So somebody else along the line, actually on Saturday morning of that week, I went to a beginners meeting. I didn't get a sponsor until the next week at the beginners meeting, but I started hearing things and I started feeling things, like strangely, the concepts that you guys were telling me were new to me, but yet they felt like they fit. And I felt like I fit. And like I said, I got a sponsor the next week at that beginners meeting. And then somebody had said to me within the first couple of weeks, there's a men's meeting on Monday night. You really ought to go. And they told me where it was, and I went to the men's meeting. And the name of the group was TSDD. Stood for Tough Shit, Don't Drink. And as you all might imagine, their mantra was, there should be nothing that could cause you to pick up a drink now that you're sober. And when I got my one-day coin there, my one-month coin there, they handed out a little, trifold like the one that's back there with the Serenity Prayer. And it had 180 names and numbers printed on it. And they said, there's no reason for you to drink. You just start calling, and keep calling. 724-365, baby. Keep calling until someone answers the phone. You got no reason to drink. And that was my first real cornerstone of my sobriety. And I had in my first 5 years of sobriety, I buried a brother from diabetes, and I buried a sister from cancer. And I'm very, very grateful that I got the easy disease. I got to come to meetings. I got to help people. I get to see all of you in recovery, which helps me in my recovery. It's an amazing thing that I'm still blown away with to this day. I have a few 24 hours, and I come to meetings and I still hear things that I'd never heard before. And I thought after a while, it would start to get old. I now believe that the slogans that they have are the real deal, where I thought before they were like, please, with the slogans. But they are the real deal, And as funny as it is to hear the contradictions in terms, surrender to win and all that, you know what they are. If you don't know what they are, come to me after the meeting and I'll tell you what they all are. So, in that first year of sobriety, as I meandered my way along and got a sponsor and did the things, it dawned on me. Someone had told me, or had said it at a meeting, that this program is for us. It's a we program. You can't do it alone. And they said, and the evidence of that is that the first word of the 12 steps is we, and the first word of the 12 traditions is our. There's no I in there. And it made a lot of sense to me, because I felt, and still do feel, my best at being who I am when I'm around all of you. I don't have to put any facades on. I don't have to dress a certain way. I can just come any way that I want to, whatever it is I'm happy to do. I got to go to a meeting, and I just come to the meeting and I just end. And that's kind of unusual for some of the jobs that I've had, where you have to look a certain way, or be a certain way, or sound a certain way. I feel strangely very much at home when I'm at a meeting. And I've had some really lifelong friends that I've met in this program. And one that I can think of, and I met him on my 1 month got my 1 month chip. It happened to be my birthday on January 5th. I got sober. I was born on the 5th. So, go figure, I'd be an alcoholic. But I got sober on the 5th, on December 5th, and people said, that's not easy to do, you get sober on the 5th. Mickey Mantle was one of us, and they said that, his favorite inning was the top of the 5th, and his worst inning was the bottom of the 5th. So I can relate to that. So I met this guy, Bill, on my 1 month anniversary. It was like divine intervention, just kind of put us together in this big book step study that was starting out. And he wouldn't be my sponsor. I already had a sponsor, but I really connected with him, and I wanted him to be my sponsor, but he wouldn't be my sponsor. He said, I don't want to be your sponsor, I'm going to be your friend. He goes, the difference is there's some subtle differences in that. He goes, as a friend, I can call you up. If I was your sponsor, you'd have to call me, and that's the only way. You'd have to call me every day. So this way I can call you. We can go hang out. If I'm your sponsor, I don't hang out with my sponsees so much. And I learned a lot from him in that first year. And I needed to have somebody like that. He taught me how to use the Serenity Prayer to get as a fire extinguisher when my pants were on fire. And not from lying, but just, it's on fire and I got to do something. And I had an occasion to do that in my first 3 or 4 months. I remember my wife stuck beer in the refrigerator. Now, when I was drinking, she never, ever, ever bought me beer. Ever. And all of a sudden, I'm sober 3 or 4 months, and I open up the refrigerator, and there's beer there. And I know there's not another guy coming over, because my kids are home. And I just thought, I said, this is really strange. And so being the good alcoholic that I was, I picked a fight with him. And words got exchanged, and I felt really bad. And finally I kind of separated myself and went out on the back porch, and I just sat there, and I said the Serenity Prayer about probably 50 times, 75 times. I just kept saying it over and over and over. And when I got done saying that, I asked God to remove the obsession, the compulsion to have a drink. And I left it at that. And I didn't, I got up, I felt better, and I got up. I don't think I apologized to her right away, but I went about my business of what I was going to do around the house. But it was, probably a couple of weeks later, and all of a sudden, I said, I haven't had a nagging to having a hankering to have a beer. Even though there's 3 beers that she bought in that refrigerator. I didn't touch it. And that was another one of those little miracles in that first year. And I've been lucky. I've had some fleeting thoughts about alcohol, about how nice a beer would taste on a hot afternoon, but I just let that be the express train and go right out the other ear. But I haven't had the compulsion. And that to me is truly a miracle. And then shortly thereafter was when all of a sudden I was sitting and reflecting, and when most of you know, some of you will learn to know, that after you get sober for a while, a couple of months, your thinking starts to clear up a little bit, just a little bit. You don't get to play with your marbles for quite a while. But I was having this thought, and all of a sudden that thing that my dad told me, and it was like, it was a cement anchor to my sobriety. And then every time my wife at the time said to me, I really liked you better when you were drinking, it was like, let me put another 2x6, 2x8 into the foundation of my sobriety every time that she said that. And then I remember when I got my 1-year coin. In Massachusetts, when you get your coin, they make kind of a deal of it. It's your birthday, they give you a cake, you say something afterwards. And I had invited my sister to come up. She's, God bless her, she was behind me, and She was very supportive, obviously, of my sobriety, and it was really a good cheerleader. And she came up and she sat next to my wife at the time, who complained that she should really be getting the cake for all that she had to do putting up with me for my first year of sobriety. Like I said, she was my wife at the time. I don't have her anymore. That clarity of thinking kind of nagged at her, because now I had an opinion about what was going on, whereas when I was drinking I was very compliant, and it's like, do whatever you want to do, I'll just have another beer, I'll just take it easy. And now that I got sober, I had something to say. I wasn't demanding, but I had an opinion. So things were changing. And as I was going to say, I'm going to say it, as luck would have it, she wasn't very spiritual at all. She was a strong believer in pure, random, statistical correlation, otherwise known as coincidence. And I was being taught then that coincidence was God's way of maintaining His anonymity in my life. And I was really jumping on that. I was really looking and finding coincidences. But that annoyed her to a very large degree, that I was kind of getting involved in a spiritual program, and she was, well, I would say an agnostic at least. Yeah, it was a good thing for me to find a spiritual program like this. Along the lines, I read something. I read something in a book that I've been reading that said the difference between the who I am today and the who I'm going to be 5 years from now is simply the people I meet and the books that I read. Now, when I look back to that first 5 years of my sobriety, what a difference you guys made for me. And that little blue book over there, that was the thing I really studied a lot of, because that's what you guys told me. The steps, the big book, like I said, I started a big book step study when I was 1 month sober. And that went on for probably 2 years of going every week, which annoyed the heck out of my wife. But I got recovery. It's amazing the things that I have gotten and grown. Someone had said, and I agree with this isn't original, but someone had told me that if someone said to me when I was 6 months sober and I had clarity, if somebody had said to me, okay, you're sober now, here's a piece of paper, I want you to write down everything that you want for the rest of your life. Just go ahead, be as wild as you want. Everything you want for the rest of your life. But you only get to get what you write down, so you better make sure you cover it all. And if I had done that exercise and that had been real, I would have shortchanged myself by a way long shot, because I have things in my life I could have never ever imagined that I have now. And I have things that money can't buy. I have a lot of peace in my heart, and a lot of serenity. I have some really great friends. I have friends in this program who, I thought I had friends before. You don't have friends like the friends you make in recovery. There's some great people in my life today. And I can call them up and they can call me up. 724-365, baby. And I'll answer the phone. And they'll answer the phone for me. And I don't know anywhere else where that kind of fellowship. And I'm seeing some people nod. You know what I mean. I just don't know where you can get that kind of fellowship outside of the halls. Which makes me wonder, how the hell do they do it? Those normal people. They got to go crazy somehow. It's like I said, in the first 5 years, I read the big book a lot and some other books, but the people that I met in those first 5 years, I mean, hell, the people I met in my first 2 weeks were profound in guiding me to meetings, to people, places, and things, the good kind of people, places, and things that really helped my sobriety and helped me keep my head on straight when things weren't going all that great. And like I said, I lost a brother and a sister to other diseases, and I feel I'm the lucky one that got away with the easy disease. I just have to go to meetings. Along the way, at 5 years, I was still in Massachusetts, and they have this thing where they give you a bag of marbles, and they tell you that you get to get your marbles back in 5 years, but you can't play with them for another 5 years. So it's kind of a tease, but it's a kind of a major milestone. I was in a discussion earlier today about what the percentages are of actually making it in long-term sobriety. And they're staggeringly, soberingly low for the long term. Yet I know people who are in long-term sobriety. And I know some people that are in short-term sobriety who are thinking like long-term sober people, and that's really a good thing. Good thing to be around those kind of people. And I don't intend on stopping being around those people for a while. So I'll tell you this, I'm going to jump back a little bit. Just before I got sober, I was working for a guy who was a stark, raving, mad, dry drunk. 5 years sober, if you want to call it that. And he was absolutely crazy. On his interview with me, he asked me if I would be all right at working for Attila the Hun. And I said I would, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And he was a lunatic. Very smart businessman, but he couldn't handle people worth a damn. Anyway, one day he kind of cornered me. He kind of nudged me off to the side, didn't corner me. And he said to me, if you ever thought you had a problem with alcohol, I'll take you to a meeting. And that was like the first chink in my armor that said, maybe the jig is up. Maybe there's people who know what I'm really doing more than I think that they know what I'm really doing. And so I've stayed in contact with this gentleman, although I don't revere him, anywhere near how I revere each and every one of you in this room tonight because of recovery, because you have recovery. But at 5 years sober, I called him up and thanked him for having the guts to say that to me. And at 10 years, I did the same thing. So I'm really grateful. I really have I'm looking back at make gratitude your attitude. And I often say to people that, they say, how you doing? I say, I'm feeling great. In fact, I'm full of great, which would make me grateful. Try that on a cashier the next time you're going to the supermarket and watch the reaction. But that's exactly how I feel most of the time. I'm very, very grateful. Because it doesn't hurt that my sponsor said, write a gratitude list every morning, which I do, because my sponsor told me to do that. And it helps me keep grounded in the day and keeps gratitude on my mind. And a couple of months ago, someone in the morning meeting in this building said to me that he had heard that GREAT stood for get really excited about today. And that's pretty much what I do when I get up. I make a list, I hit my knees, I do a gratitude list, I read the Reflections, which is a scary book for me to read, because I really swear that Homeland Security is all over me, and they sneak people in at night to change the words in that book to reflect exactly what I need to hear. It really is a scary thing. And I needed to tell my story tonight, but January 31st, I said, geez, if I'm ever going to be the discussion leader, this is going to be the one I'm going to talk about. But it's the way I start the day, and it keeps me in that grateful place in my heart, I guess. What I heard early on is that a grateful heart never drinks. I hope that's true, because if that's true, I'm not going to, I got it knocked for today. I've been pretty grateful today, and I hope to be grateful tomorrow. I've had a chance since coming down. I've been a snowbird back and forth from Vermont, and I feel blessed. There's a proper word for here. I feel blessed that I landed in the Sandhills, because I think that the sobriety, the recovery that I see here is second to none. I've been to some really good places with really strong sobriety, but I am so glad that I am here, and I have met so many people down here who have helped to shape and continue to help shape my sobriety on a daily basis. A lot of them are in this room right now. Wasn't that long ago, last spring, I went on my first spiritual men's retreat with people from this fellowship, from this area. And I thought it was really ironic that about the time that we were doing this, there was a big political hubbub around Amendment 1 and gay marriage and all the rights and all that stuff. Right around that time. And then here's 40 of us guys, we're camping next to some Boy Scouts over here, and there's a church group right over here, and twice a day, in broad daylight, there's 40 guys holding hands saying the Lord's Prayer, and the Boy Scouts are, come on, we're going to come over here and we'll play some beanbag toss over here. It was interesting to kind of watch that, but I knew what we were up to, and it was the right thing to do. And maybe one of the den mothers came over and asked, "What are you guys doing?" And then it would have been all right. But for me, it was one of the best retreats that I had ever been on. Perhaps the best retreat I had ever been on, including all the ones that I did when I was in the youth and did the youth ministry camps and all that, because I got to be me. I didn't have to be anybody else. I didn't have to be somebody that I thought somebody thought I should be. I could just be me, and that's the blessing for me, at least in my experience. That's all I have to do. I just have to show up. And I can think what I want to think, and that's usually pretty positive stuff, and then I get to listen to what you guys think about recovery and about what you're doing and about what you think about all of this. And usually that's pretty positive too. And it's very energizing for me. So, I think I'm going to keep coming for a while. Till I can't come anymore. As a good baby boomer, that's what I should do. Another discussion recently that we were having was about baby boomers don't retire, they just keep going. And the people of Social Security are saying, are these guys going to go somewhere? The statistics stay there. No. And we just give them trouble. We've been doing stuff differently since we came around. And I've been doing stuff differently here since I came around. I'm going to finish with a story that, not a story, but something that happened to me today. And I got to thinking about it on the way over here. I was watching a movie just before I left while we were eating dinner, where there was a plane that was in trouble. They had lost all their hydraulics, and they were headed down. Definitely, and not a death spiral, but they were headed down. And they're going to die. And the pilot did something extraordinarily counterintuitive. And he did some things with the brake and this and that, and he flipped the plane over. So it was now flying upside down, but it was flying level at about 1,000 feet. And he's flying over the city upside down. And I had to go. Now I know that there's more to the story. I know he lives but as I'm driving here and thinking about it, I'm thinking what a metaphor that is for what this program is all about and what I've experienced in this program. Because when I came in here, it was all about me. Me. The end is like this. And I was in a death spiral. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was powerless. Had no power over the rudder or the hydraulics or anything. And certainly my life was unmanageable. But I came in here, and all I could think about was me. And you guys taught me to turn it over like the plane. And now the M became a W, and it went from me to we. And you taught me to turn it over and let the higher power guide me for where I needed to be. And I'm here to tell you as a testament that simple, uncomplicated step brought about some major miracles in my life. And the fact that I'm standing here before you, alive today, oh, by the way, when I first got sober, all I wanted to do was surpass my dad. He lived till he was 60 years and 11 months. All I wanted to do was surpass him, live longer than my dad. That would be proof that this worked. 5 years into my drinking, and into my sobriety, my thinking got a little clear. And I said, wait a minute, that's kind of a short-sighted kind of thing, because 61 is like right over there. So I rewrote my goals and said, I want to get a 61-year coin. I'll be 104 when that happens. I just surpassed my dad's longevity a couple of months ago. And it was interesting that I was 18 when he died, and I was 42 when I came in here. Last November 30th was the 42nd anniversary of his death. And 5 days later, like the 5th I was born on, and the 5th I got sober on, 5 days later, I got my 18th year coin. Coincidence? Probably. I'm sure it's just a random statistical correlation of random numbers. Anyways, it's no It certainly isn't any coincidence that I'm here tonight and that you're here too. I would be remiss in my responsibility if I didn't tell you all that I love you very dearly, and that each and every one of you mean a great deal to me in my life and my continued sobriety. And I thank you for letting me speak tonight.